play true or false, shall we? If your AMH is low, that means you have no eggs left. False. If your AMH is low, that means you have low egg quality. Again, false. And if your AMH is low, there's nothing you can do about it. False. I have discovered that there is a lot of false information out there, especially on the internet, when it comes to AMH. Since I've been getting a lot of questions about it, I figured it was high time we did a video on the topic. Hello lovelies, and welcome to another one of my videos. I hope that this video is not going to be too dark because I'm kind of pushing it when it comes to the light, but I really wanted to get a video out there for you today. So I am filming this at 8:30 p.m. and I still have the ambition of editing it and uploading it. So we'll see. But I really wanted to do this for you and not write something like, I'll bring out a video tomorrow. I want to save that for the really crazy busy days. Yeah, because this one was just fine. Anyway, let's get back on track. Let's talk about AMH. So AMH is the anti-mullerian hormone. It is also called the mullerian inhibiting hormone, so you may see it as MIH on your test results. And this hormone is often measured through your blood work to see how your egg reserve is doing. And yes, it is fantastic for that, but it doesn't say everything. And that is what I really want to address in this video. This is what you need to know about AMH. AMH is produced by follicles that are maturing in your ovaries. Hey, now that makes a lot of sense, right? Because if there are less follicles, then it makes sense that AMH would be lower. If there are more follicles, it makes sense that AMH would be higher. So now you also understand why often in cases of PCOS, AMH will be extremely high because there are lots of follicles that are being stimulated. So now that you know this, we can already kind of deal with that lie that goes around that you have no eggs left when your AMH is low, right? Because if there's no eggs left, then you would produce no AMH. So if you're producing AMH, then there should be follicles somewhere, right? Also, AMH to your follicles is a relative thing per woman. It's not like you can say, oh, this is the level of AMH you have. That means you have such amount of follicles or eggs maturing. You could have hundreds left even if you have considered low AMH. So let's take care of that one. Now, secondly, we want to have a look at the egg quality story. Often it is suggested that if your AMH is low, that your egg quality is low. But that doesn't say anything about your egg quality. It talks about the possible amount that is left. So you still have follicles that are maturing with low AMH, and it doesn't say anything about the quality. So don't worry about that bit. Just focus on the quality of the eggs that you do have and that are maturing. And I've got a video that I will link up here and in the description down below how you can boost your egg quality. The next thing we want to talk about is then what is considered low AMH, right? Because of course it is relevant to know if your egg reserve is diminishing. Well, it is considered low when it is under 0.5 nanograms per milliliter. That is considered diminished ovarian reserve. Anything between that and 1.5 nanograms per milliliter is considered normal to low. Anything above that is considered good and that you'll be able to conceive just fine. Except there's a little catch because, as I said, if you have PCOS, your AMH will be through the roof. And 3 nanograms per milliliter is considered by a lot of people to be on the high end, some say above 4. If you have had your AMH tested and you have blood test results, then you know your number and now you know whether you fall into the low range, the normal low range, or in the normal range, right? And I have a little theory that a lot of you have been told that you have low AMH when you are falling within that low normal range of 0.5 to 1.5 nanograms per milliliter. And I think there is a reason for this. I think a lot of women are being scared about them not being able to conceive naturally when they have a number that falls in that range for the following reason. If you want to do IVF, your AMH needs to fall within a range that brings the most success. So if you're under 0.5, chances are that you will be rejected for IVF because the outcomes will be extremely low. Now, IVF success rates are quite low as it is. It's about 35% for couples that are under 35, which I often find odd because IVF is often not just seen as a last resort thing, but as the solution when it doesn't work out at home. While in reality, there is a big gap between trying to conceive naturally on your own and then IVF. There is so much you can do in between that, and I think I've kind of already proven that on this channel, that there's a lot that you can do to improve your overall health and your fertility and the quality and the amount of your eggs and the quality and amount of the sperm of your husband. But anyway, back to the AMH thing and the IVF. Your AMH needs to be at a certain level for IVF to have good outcomes. So if you have a normal level of AMH that would bring enough success, but it is diminishing, then your doctor is probably going to tell you that you should be doing IVF, is going to be pushing for it because you are still in the phase where IVF would probably be successful or the most successful. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to conceive naturally at home. So before you have somebody scare you into your AMH numbers, think about that. And you know what is even more interesting? There has been more recent research that shows that AMH can't actually fluctuate. And it's under certain conditions and circumstances, but it can fluctuate. A lot of doctors and a lot of people still are under the impression that it doesn't matter what time of your cycle you test for AMH, in contrast to progesterone levels, which you want to test in the second half of your cycle after ovulation, or FSH, which you want to test in the first half. AMH is said, oh, you can test it at any time and it's a very reliable number, it doesn't change. Turns out that's not true. Yes, it is true for the super low numbers like the 0.5, etc. But when you're looking at the mid-range and the normal range, it turns out that AMH is actually higher in the first half of your follicular phase than it is later on. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because if AMH is being produced by follicles that are maturing, you would be looking at that very first half of your cycle. So if you've been told that you have low AMH, but you are on the normal to low range, and you have been tested later on in your cycle, it is absolutely worthwhile to test again, maybe day 3 or 4 of your cycle. And that brings me to changing your AMH numbers, because that's just another lie out there that you can't do anything about it. Of course, if you actually hit menopause, there's nothing you can do. However, when you're not there, when you still have eggs left, you absolutely can change your AMH numbers. And you need to look at the following things. Stress can absolutely lower your AMH, so let's bring that down. Smoking. You should be quitting anyway if you're trying to conceive, but that absolutely brings down AMH levels. Another thing is vitamin D deficiency, and this is one of the reasons that I have all my patients on vitamin D supplementation, unless they live in a sunny country and are working outside all the time. Most people will need to be topped up, especially because people in the West work a lot inside, and if they're outside at all in the sunshine, they'll lather on some sunscreen. There is no way for their body to produce enough vitamin D. So I mentioned smoking, and one of the problems with smoking is the toxicity, and that brings me to mental toxicity. I've mentioned this several times on my channel, and I've just started a really cool group of people that are going to be detoxing metals as well as some other things. But metals can really influence your AMH levels as well. Your body doesn't deal well with toxicity, so let's get rid of that and bring up those numbers. Circulation is another one. We need good circulation in our abdomen for good quality eggs. I mentioned that in the video that I already linked up here or down there or both. But we need good circulation, not just for the uterus so that the lining can be nice and thick and nutritious and there can be lots of oxygen, but we need that in the ovaries too, for the eggs to mature properly. So it's important for egg quality, but it is also important for follicles to be maturing at all. So a abdominal massage is really helpful. Fertility massages, I know I've promised to do a video on that, but you understand if I'm pregnant right now, it's kind of hard to do a video on the topic, but you can have it done professionally, and there are actually a couple of really good YouTube videos out there that you can search for to do it yourself. When we're talking about nutrition and we're talking about toxicity, you understand that lifestyle and your diet is super important. Stop stuffing your face with rubbish all the time. Yes, treat yourself every now and then for being good, but make sure that you eat wholesome foods, that you eat whole foods, good quality, and that will bring your AMH levels up as well as deal with any obesity you might be struggling with, because if you know that you're obese, then that really impacts your AMH numbers as well. So if you're working on that and trying to bring down your weight, then you know you're also working on those AMH levels. All right, lovelies, I hope that was helpful to you to demystify some of the information that is out there on AMH. I was also thinking of doing a video in the near future about fertility testing. What kind of fertility tests can you ask for? Should you ask for? How should you interpret them? Maybe not like completely medically interpret them, but what do they say about your fertility? If that's a video you'd be interested in, then definitely comment below, let me know, or like the video and I'll just interpret it as that's what you want to see in the future. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to my channel as well so that you're notified the next time I upload new content, which is every Thursday, and that should hopefully include soon some more videos on AMH, on fertility testing, and otherwise on other fertility boosting tips, because that's what I'm all about. And in the meantime, see you in the next video. Bye.